talking with people with music in their genes, their blood, and in their soul. You are watching Musical Interlude. Hello, it's time for another episode of Musical Interlude. I am your host, Casey Bell, and today we are talking to Marcelo and Maxime. They are the hosts of the spontaneous jam session at the pinkFROG Cafe located in Brooklyn, New York. Let's get this show started. Okay, so we begin. Thank you for coming on the show. So my first question I have for you separately, you're both musicians. When did you first discover your joy for music as well as your talent? When did you first discover, around what age were you when you realized music was definitely something a part of your DNA?
Maxime, you go first?
Sure. I think I was 6 years old when that was the moment when I told my parents I wanted to play the drum set, and they were kind of surprised because although my dad is a musician, I guess he's passionate about music, he plays a few instruments, but they never, tried to bring me to music school or anything like that before that age. And it was really, I asked them to do that. So 6 years old was when it started. And I think after 2 weeks or 3 weeks of lessons, they did their best to find a drum kit that was, cheap enough so they could afford it, because they realized that I was, learning really fast and really into it, very serious about it, even though I was 6 years old. So that's how it started, and it was quite early.
And for me, I got into playing bass a little bit later. Really started when I was like 14, 13. I really wanted to play bass, but my parents, they said that nobody really cared about the bass, so they bought me a guitar actually, and they told me just try to learn guitar first. And then I was like, okay. And then I did a whole year of guitar, and I was like, that's really not for me. And then I remember, like, I think it was my 15th birthday, my grandparents, they came one day and they brought like a bass guitar. It was like a Dean bass, I still remember. I think I still have it somewhere. It's like a $50 bass, and it was pretty cool. I really enjoyed it. I was super in love with Red Hot Chili Peppers back then, so I was trying to learn all their songs. That's pretty much it. And then after that, after like graduating high school, I was like, I gotta do something with this. So, ended up pursuing music, and everybody was super supportive. I was really happy about that. Yeah.
Cool. So let's jump right into the pinkFROG Cafe. First of all, what inspired you or encouraged you to even start this event? It says since November 2022. Things were better, obviously, but did you have any reservations of starting an in-person event with the current issues of the COVID?
I'll start with this one, Maxime. Yeah, but basically, this was kind of an extension of something that we've been doing for a while. It really happened by luck to begin with. pinkFROG is a very cool venue. It's quite recent. They are less than 5 years old, and they are based in Williamsburg in Brooklyn. It's a super nice, lively, area of Brooklyn with a lot of art, a lot of music. So it's really, really good area for this kind of thing. And yeah, I went there once. I went there to watch a jam session actually, and they were playing. And I went to play, and the owners, Lan Ning is the owner of pinkFROG. Like she really enjoyed when I was playing, and she talked to me after, like, "Hey, I really liked you. I really liked the way you play. Like, it was very nice." And then, we didn't talk for a long time. And after like 3-4 months, I came there again to play another show, and then she told me, "Oh, there's like a spot available. We really love you to have like a jam session. We want to have some kind of thing that we can gather people here, and we can have a community kind of thing, right?" So I said, yeah, I would love to host a jam session. It's something I've been looking to do for a long time. And I would love to, kind of bring in what me, Maxime, and our other very good friend, Andrew Chang, like we've been doing for like quite a while since COVID times. It's like we were streaming online on Twitch, for example, on twitch.com, or like Facebook, YouTube. We were streaming like free improvisation music, just creating things on the spot. So the idea is in this jam to kind of do the same thing, like free music on the spot. And that's kind of the story, how things started. If you have anything to add, Maxime.
No, yeah, I mean that's exactly what happened is we started playing with that concept of let's just show up and play how we feel without any predetermined song form or charts during the pandemic, because I guess we all of us, so Marcelo, myself, and the third friend of ours, which with whom we played a lot, we all probably felt, you know, that tension of being stuck indoors and having no outlets to, you know, release the all the creativity that is built in. So we started playing like this, and like Marcelo said, we first live stream on Twitch, and the reason we wanted to live stream was because we wanted the product of whatever improvisation we would come up with to be available for our families, because they were stuck at home in their own respective countries. And it's kind of funny because it's all across the world, because Marcelo is from Brazil, his family was stuck in Brazil. Andrew, the guitar player, he's from Malaysia. They were stuck in Malaysia, and my family was stuck in France. And so we kind of we were trying to just bring music to people we cared for. And then yeah, later on, like Marcel explained, he got that opportunity with pinkFROG, where they were looking for some kind of a community building jam session, and we've Marcelo felt like that would be perfect, and he called me to play the drums for the first few, and then to start co-hosting together, because he would, you know, split the load of having to, you know, help and choose which people to play on stage. There's, you know, there's a whole lot of things that come up with a jam session, especially in New York City, where there's a lot of people, a lot of musicians who show up with different levels and abilities, and also expectations. So as host, it's kind of is a challenge to make sure everybody's happy, but also to keep the music flowing, and make sure everybody gets to play. So yeah, so that's why the whole thing started at pinkFROG, is because there was an opening, the place needed a jam session, but we also had done that prior experimentation on our own. So it made sense, and it's really lucky that Marcelo found this, actually, because
Yes.
it fits perfectly. So yeah.
So let me rewind it just a little bit now that you said that. How, and obviously you would have to answer this separately. How did you end up in Brooklyn? Being that I believe you said Marcelo's from Brazil and you're from France.
Uh, like, can you say one more time the Brooklyn part? I didn't hear. Sorry.
How did we end
Yes,
up
how
there?
did you end up in Brooklyn?
Oh, I ended up. Okay, got it. Yeah, so, well, it was pretty much long journey coming from school. You know, we both attended Berklee College of Music in Boston. So I moved there when I was in 2014. I went from 2014 to 2017. And, you know, after graduating Berkeley, I think Maxime agrees with this, but I want to hear his opinion. But usually there's like like 3, 4 paths that you can take, and you either gonna go to New York, you go to Los Angeles, you go to Nashville, or you stay in Boston, or I guess you go to back to your home country or your city state. But you know, those are like kind of the paths that people take, and you know, ended up choosing New York. It was very close to Boston, also something that was attractive to me. Also is a very nice jazz scene. You know, as I evolved in the past like 6, 7 years, I don't see myself so close to the, you know, tight straight ahead jazz community. But back in the day, you know, I went to school for the study jazz, and you know, New York really was the main option for me. And I first actually moved to Manhattan, which was really chaotic, was crazy. And right away I moved to Brooklyn after that, after the first year. And I enjoy Brooklyn, I would say, much more in most of the senses of just living in Brooklyn compared to Manhattan. They're both very nice in its own way, but Brooklyn has a more artistic vibe to it, I feel, less tourist vibe than Manhattan has. And I just really enjoyed being here for the past like 6, 7 years. Got to meet a lot of musicians, you know, about regarding the college situation about Berkeley. There's so many alumni and so many friends that we know that we always meet, and we always meeting new people from our college, from our school. So I really been enjoying living in Brooklyn. Since COVID, sometimes, you know, it was tough to survive, but it's still, you know, I'm still very thankful for living in such a vibrant, you know, city, vibrant scene for sure.
Yeah, I mean, for me, yeah, pretty much the same story. I mean, Brooklyn was, again, the same as Marcelo, the end point of a quite long journey from France, where Berklee College of Music in Boston was the first step into America. And so that was, you know, the reason why I moved is because it seems like it would be the best music school I could possibly attend if I decided to become a musician. And when I made that choice, it meant leaving everything behind and going to attend that school. So after that, like Marcelo said, it's completely true. There's, yeah, a few paths that are open after you graduate from Berkeley, and New York was one of them. It was also very close to Boston, like he said, so it was possible for me to move there and still keep the connections that I had in Boston, who, you know, were not done with school or maybe wanted to stay there or just had moved to New York City. And actually, at the moment I moved, I kind of waited until I started gigging more in New York City than I was in Boston, so that made the transition very easy because I just had work. So it was quite valuable as a new graduate to have money, income, and things to do, because the city of New York can be intimidating when you don't know where you're going and what you're doing, because there's so many great musicians and so many things happening. So I waited until I felt like I was ready and I was part of that, you know, movement in New York City, the community and the scene, and so yeah, and it's been very interesting. I've only lived in Brooklyn. I've never lived in Manhattan like Marcelo, and I don't think I would enjoy it. So I'm gonna stick to Brooklyn. But yeah, that's how it happened. A long journey from France, and I'm sure for Marcelo from Brazil too.
Mm-hmm.
Great stories. So going back now to the jam session, it says in the email that your jam sessions begin with the audience giving suggestions. Was that the original concept, or did it turn into that?
Do you want to go this one, Maxime?
Sure, yeah. It came, yeah, pretty much from doing those live streams during the pandemic, where we ended up having quite a regular few people attending virtually, or yeah, being connected and watching the live streams. And it was kind of sad for us to just play music and not interact with them, because they would always react at the end of each song and say, oh, this was great, or this made us feel like such, or this sounded like this. And then we realized, oh, rather than having their reaction after, we could also ask them, you know, how they're feeling. Do they have something they'd like to hear, and do they have a story or something they're imagining that they would like to hear in music? Because again, it was that whole period of time where everybody was stuck inside and probably had their heads, you know, going spinning around and thinking a lot, and so that was kind of like an outlet. And we had very interesting, you know, prompts by people on Twitch just asking us to play, you know, random stories and kind of wild ideas. And it was quite funny actually, because, or just the fact that we had some sort of direction, no matter how crazy it was. Sometimes we weren't able to, you know, cater to that specific story because it's very abstract, but it still put us, the three of us, when we were playing, it put us in this mood that, you know, we had the same image, we had the same start. And since the whole concept was free improvisation, it gave us some form of restriction, which is very valuable when there are no rules, because sometimes, you know, complete freedom is restrictive. so having some kind of concept to follow or some kind of idea or story was actually quite helpful, even if we deviated at some point, but even to just start. And when we started the jam session in person at pinkFROG, it felt natural to just replicate that same interaction. And it was even more rewarding because we could, see people sort of think about, what they would like to hear. And most of the time when you ask people for a theme or an idea, it's just blank at first because they're not used to participate or provide something. And maybe, maybe people who attend those shows like music, but they might not be used to reach into their creative mind. So at first, and they're also probably awkward or anxious that they're going to say something that's not cool or anything. But then we try to tell them, look, it doesn't matter. Like whatever you say, it'll influence us in some way, and then something will come out of it. And at the end of the day, everything is okay. Like everything is the right answer. So then you see people start to relax, and then they come up with super interesting, things, which is really useful because sometimes we also have singers who are part of the band, now that it's a jam session. And those singers sometimes venture out and actually make up lyrics on the spot, which is very interesting. It creates this whole thing. So yeah, that's how the concept of prompt started. And I think we really love that because of the fact that most jam sessions or even shows, the band plays music to the audience and the audience receives it, but it's kind of a one-way street. And for this, we try to make it a collaborative effort of everybody being part of it and creating something together, so that it's probably very memorable. If someone came up with some kind of prompt and we played the song for that, they have a different kind of attention to what's happening in the music because they're already in that mindset of like, oh, it's the apocalypse and the planet is dominated by an army of cats, like whatever crazy thing people come up with. That's everybody is in this same visualization, and they probably pay attention to the music differently. So that's why we love doing it, and we probably keep doing it.
Yeah, exactly. Especially, the person that gives the prompt, like there's a very special thing because a lot of times, we try our best to make things, as interesting and within the team as possible, right? Because yesterday, like this lady, she said leather, right? Or what else she said? Like
leather, yeah,
yeah,
she
like
just
one word, right? And like, what is that? Like, how can you play music to that? And at the end of the day, you don't, right? Like, there's no sound, there's no thing for leather, like a team that's going to be leather. But we try to just keep that in mind, and the audience, they can tell that we keep it in mind. And most of the times, I haven't heard once someone say, "No, I didn't like it. It wasn't. I didn't hear." Of course, out of politeness, maybe they always say that, but I feel most people somehow, even if we go to somewhere completely random and crazy when we play the song, they would identify with something. And it kind of shows a very cool part, I think, about human nature, how they can project a little bit of themselves, a little bit of what they have in whatever you're creating. Even if you are outside by miles, in your opinion as a musician, this doesn't sound like leather at all. But for them, just for them being the creators of the idea, they try their best to really connect. And I think it really, really pushes a different perspective on what the audience can do and how they can really listen to music. Because everybody that usually gives us the prompt, I find that to be the most attentive listeners, and they really enjoy whatever happens. We haven't had a complaint yet, so I'm really happy for that part. Yeah.
So I'm sure there isn't a template for this because this is just freestyle. But you're saying so the audience gives a theme or a story, and according to your email, you've played R&B, jazz, Indian, Lithuanian, Mid Eastern, all different sorts of genres. And so now the question is, does the audience choose a genre? Do you choose a genre? And being that it's freestyle, does someone take the lead and did other two follow? Or how do you decide what genre of music you're going to be playing with this theme you've been given?
I'll start with this one. So there is one big thing that, we never talk about, me and Maxime, we never talk about it, but I think it was always super implied, it's very important, which is the audience shouldn't really tell us any musical guidelines, should never give us stuff like that. So sometimes people say, hey, can you do a song about this and this, and can you make it sound like Led Zeppelin or something like that? Or there was another day, sound like... not the artist, I forgot who it was, but anyway, they're gonna give us like an actual musical cue. Can you make it Latin, right? Can you make it more funky, and any of those things? And we tell them, well, we would prefer if you wouldn't say that. Let the music be with the musicians, and you guys give us the idea, the creative part. So in that, for the jam, we find it to be more interesting to be like that, because you really limits the musicians when someone said, do it like this, do it like this, you know, like we are in a box at that point. When if you just give us an idea, it's, you know, it is a certain frame, but it's really a limitless frame. We can take it anywhere. And I find it much more interesting, especially because this is not only a show where the band plays, this is a jam session, meaning random musicians are going to come up. And people have different experiences. So, you know, you go to someone that, you know, has been playing guitar for like a couple of years, and they're learning their scale, they're learning how to navigate the guitar. And then they come on stage and you tell them, play like this, do this. They might not know what that means. They might not know what is like a funky guitar, or like what is, you know, how does Led Zeppelin would sound like. It's just something that requires a lot of maturity, I would say, to just emulate a sound. And I think it's better if we avoid that. So we try to always move away from the audience giving us the musical tips. And for us, we really just try to create something completely spontaneous, usually with one person starting it. Now, for the lead question that you were saying, a lot of times we have someone that feels inspired at the moment, and they're just going to start something, you know. And that's great, because that's how it should be. Like, it's about being, you know, there's a partnership in music of the instruments when they are on the stage. You should never, it's almost like regular, you know, comedy improv, right? You should always say yes. So when we're playing there and you hear someone doing something, doesn't matter how much you think that's like, oh, I don't like the way they're playing that thing, or maybe it's a beginner and they're playing completely out of time. Our job, especially as the host, is to make that work, right? So we're gonna say yes to that, we're gonna push it. And sometimes they can hear and they're gonna reinforce that and then doubles down on that idea. Or maybe someone creates something and I say, okay, we've been here for too long. I mean, I think about, like, we've been here for too long, you know, and then maybe I'll play something different that goes to a different place. Maxime is playing something and then he changes time maybe. So there are many different ways we can navigate. Usually there is someone taking the lead, but I don't like to say like it's for, you know, it's like there's a leader playing something. There are leading moments throughout the composition. So we are playing and the guitar can start, he's taking the lead at that point, and then someone else, the singer, maybe they're go somewhere else, and then maybe Maxime want to change something, maybe I change something. So there's a lot of different levels. And just to finish on that idea, there are also different ways to affect the music regarding what instrument you're playing, right? That's something that I find is super interesting, because as bass and drums, we are really, I would say, the perfect scenario for being the host, because we are the rhythm section. So bass and drums really much are the ground of everything, the foundation. Everything comes from us, I would say. So a lot of times, you know, we can be very dominant because our sounds, they take over. You know, the bass really is where the chords come from. So I can kind of change the whole chord. The guitar's playing something, I play a different note, it's something different. And Maxime with the whole rhythm part changes everything, because it controls 100% of the rhythm and the metric and all those things. So different instruments can have different effects. Like a saxophone couldn't really change something so radically as the bass and drums, I would say, but they can take it to a different place that we can take. So it's a very cool like mix of all these different flavors and different instruments, and it's super interesting, I think.
Yeah, 100%.
Cool.
I mean, everything you said is exactly what I believe, and I would say the one thing I want to add is that basically everybody can play at this jam session. Like, I don't think there's really a level that's required in terms of proficiency on the instrument. The more proficient, obviously, the more free they can be, but the most important thing is not necessarily proficiency, but it's more maturity in terms of listening. And so we always try to tell people that, because obviously we want them to have a good experience playing. And it's quite jarring to show up on stage and just not know what's going to happen. Even for us, sometimes it's like, wow, let's just do it. Let's see what happens. We don't know. And it's kind of, it's a difficult thing to accept, that you're going to be in control of almost nothing. And so the thing we try to explain to people is that it's good, it's useful, at least to me, to view it as a conversation. Marcel was saying improv for comedy. It's that for sure. But it's even like if we wanted to make it even simpler for people, it's like a conversation, and it's just a conversation with a language that's less clear than words. So you have to be aware enough to listen to everything that's being said. And it's not just two people, it's more than two people. And sometimes they're going to talk at the same time. And sometimes whatever you're going to say is not going to be heard. So you might have to repeat it. You might have to be patient with it. So that's the real challenge, is being able to listen and contribute in a small way, because it's an effort to build something together, not just about you playing something cool on your own, because that will never work. It's again, like Marcelo said, improv comedy, you always have to go with it. You have to say yes so that things can progress. But it's always, you have to be aware of what the story is. So you have to be listening. And so the listening part is the most important. That's what we try to explain to people as much as possible, so that something is created. And even for the most beginner people, if they just played 2 notes and they repeated that long enough, and they trusted that the rest of the band could make something with it, it will create a great song. It will create a great song, because it's again about the team creating something together, not just someone having that to bear that load. So that's something very important that we try to explain to people whenever we play here.
Well, it sounds very interesting. So for those who are in or near New York City or plan on visiting the area in the future, where is it at? What day and time? And is there a fee or a price, or how does it work?
Yeah, so we are there every Sunday from 6:30 to 9:30. The place is called the pinkFROG Cafe, right? It's located in Williamsburg. The address is 221 North 9th Street at Brooklyn, New York. And it's pretty much open for anybody. What we ask is that if you're a musician and it's courteous of you to do something like this, to come and try to purchase a food or a drink just to help the venue. But currently it's open for no fee. Anyone can just come and watch. But we do ask some kind of contribution for the venue, because pinkFROG is so nice to host this every week. We're really happy to have that space all the time. And New York's not a cheap place, so anything really helps the venue a lot. But that's pretty much it. We're there every Sunday, rain or shine, and it's been raining a lot on the last. It's a joke that we have, like on the last year, every Sunday it rained. So it's been sometimes tough to get people there. But now it's been very nice this year. I would say we've been getting a pretty nice following, and we're there every Sunday. That's it.
Well, that's all the time we have for you today on Musical Interlude. I want to thank our guests, Marcelo and Maxime, for stopping on by and sharing. And if you are in or near, or going to be in or near New York City anytime soon, stop on by the pinkFROG Cafe located in Brooklyn, New York. Sundays at 6:30 p.m. is when they have their jam sessions. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.